throat.
What?
When I took that phone call, I could...
Down her throat? Bro, this is happening in the city?
Yo, YouTube, what up? It's MellowBanks. Today we got another crime documentary. This one's about Teresa. R.I.P. Teresa, an older lady that was found decomposing in her apartment by herself. Was there foul play involved? I don't know. Let's see.
Teresa was a creature of habit, and she would like to call her sister very regularly.
I did call her the next day. She didn't answer the phone. And I called her again. She didn't answer the phone.
As soon as you opened the door, Teresa was lying there on the floor.
There was blood in the bathroom, blood beside the door, even though the body was located on the floor in the hallway. So just things that I couldn't explain. You look at it, it's just a bloody pillow. But it's not until you turn it around and you see a bloody footwear impression.
And one of the things we wanted to establish was, do those bloody footprints from inside of the apartment travel outside of the apartment?
As soon as I went the other way, right away, I started seeing footwear impressions fluorescent blue. And all of a sudden, those impressions, they turn into bare feet.
Tonight, when an elderly woman is found dead in her apartment, her family assumes it's from natural causes. But the shocking results of the autopsy leave investigators wondering, was it an accident or something more sinister?
Yeah, that's definitely a murder, bro. No doubt.
It's August 11th in 2020. And the weather was really hot.
14 Division received a phone call regarding a smell coming from an apartment. Officers attended apartment 801, 24 Shaw Street.
That's the address of the Terabella, a subsidized apartment building in Toronto's West End. The call concerned an elderly resident named Teresa Santos.
It was 10 o'clock, and the super called me saying that ambulance was called.
The apartment was a small, one-bedroom apartment with a living room and a kitchen as well. But as soon as you opened the door, Teresa was lying there on the floor. There was a pillow on top of her face. The first people on scene would have checked for a pulse, would have checked to see if there was any signs of life. It was fairly evident that Teresa was beyond help at that point.
I got here about 10:30, and when I arrived, I think a supervising duty officer was also arriving, and the first officer told them they found the body.
Damn, raspy ass voice.
The fact that Miss Santos died, that was the shock of itself. And then at that moment, we went into the office and found all pertinent information about family members and so forth.
Teresa was found in a state of high decomposition. It was very difficult just to see what had happened.
At first glance,
Wow.
because of her
She must have
age
been there for a long
and
time.
some of the disarray in the apartment, the coroner was unsure if there was a suspicious death.
How?
However, determined that we would have an autopsy.
As Teresa is taken to the coroner's office,
She was
the
found
apartment
with a,
is sealed.
She was found with a pillow over her face covered in blood. What are they talking about? They don't know if it was suspicious death.
We went into the office and found all pertinent information about family members and so forth.
Disarray in the apartment. The coroner was unsure if there was a suspicious death. However, determined that we would have an autopsy.
As Teresa is taken to the coroner's office, the apartment is sealed, and police inform the family.
My mother's got a Nest doorbell, so when it rings, it's connected to my phone. So at 1 a.m., the doorbell goes and my phone gives me a notification. And I wake up and I'm like, who's at my mom's house at 1 o'clock in the morning? So when I look at the phone, I see a man in uniform. And I ask my wife, call my mom and make sure she does not open the door until I confirm who's at the door. And I'm talking through the camera to this person standing outside, and I'm asking him for identification. Who are you? Why are you here? He asked me, is this Lucinda Oliveira's house? And I said, yeah. So he said, the do you know or does she know a Teresa Santos? And I go, yeah, it's my mom's sister.
What did the police tell you about what had happened?
He said they found my sister dead in the apartment.
Aww.
And they couldn't give me any more news that time. They said they only find her dead. So I thought maybe she fell down and she couldn't get up and she will, because that could happen.
That's what I was thinking about the whole time. Like, imagine how scary it is as an older woman or man that lives by themselves, bro. Imagine you fall down one day and there's no one there to help you, bro. Like, you're just stuck and you literally just die. And even after you die, nobody's even there to come check up on you for weeks and your body decomposes. Like, that's
Teresa
sad.
was, after all, 75 years old, and she needed a walker to get around.
Exactly. When you need a walker to get around.
Cause of death would not be known until the autopsy 2 days later.
Prior to any autopsy, the bodies are CT scanned, and the pathologist at the time noticed unusual things in unusual places. They found broken vertebrae, broken ribs, dislodged teeth, broken piece of mirror.
Someone beat her up, bro.
Content.
What?
Which obviously raised suspicion. So we had a couple of officers from our office attend to photograph the autopsy, and it wasn't until then that we located a knife down her throat.
What?
When I took that phone call,
A knife down her throat? Bro, this is happening in the city?
I had to ask a couple times of what it was, and the detective explained it to me a couple of times. There is nothing to prepare you for someone to say that we have this deceased person and they have a knife. It's not just lodged in their throat, but it's pierced the base of their skull. Shocking is the only way to describe it.
She had multiple
like, as a family, you see this, man, that's heartbreaking, bro.
facial fractures as well.
Oh my God.
But those were things that we were unable to see when we had originally seen Teresa. Her body was so decomposed that you could not even see the knife that was inside of her mouth.
Wow.
As shocking as it was, it didn't yet constitute murder.
I'm speechless.
So a knife in the back of the throat, unfortunately, isn't enough because there are mental illness considerations, there are accidental considerations, there's a lot of things that could conceivably cause that. So the one factor, while a clear red flag, was not enough to deem it a homicide.
That's the thing about the law, bro. There's too many loopholes. You mean to tell me there's a knife in the girl's throat and we're not going to assume that's murder? Holy smokes.
It just remained a suspicious death at that point.
Accidentally.
It seemed very likely, but there still is the potential that somebody was doing something misadventurous inside their apartment and had fallen on a knife and caused their death. We had also looked at and doing something potential that somebody was doing something misadventurous inside their apartment and had fallen on a knife and caused their death.
What a joke.
We had also looked at the possibility of pica, which is the ingestion of foreign undigestible objects into a person's body.
They come up with anything.
But
that's a real thing?
Further investigation, there was no evidence that that had ever taken place.
If you made it this far, like the video, subscribe. Don't be a hater. I just hit 200 subscribers. I rate all you guys.
We really had to keep our mind open to all possibilities.
Not knowing when Teresa was last seen or heard from, police canvassed for video and interviewed residents. They also took a closer look at scene photos.
And what we see are blood, decomposed food around the apartment, and we see a room that's in disarray. But we don't really have a good, clear picture about what had happened. So we asked the investigator from 14 Division to ensure that FIS goes over and takes some more comprehensive photos of the scene.
As soon as I got there, I had several areas of concern, a couple of red flags that I didn't like. There was blood all over the walls, the floor, blood on the ceiling. There was blood in the bathroom, blood beside the door, even though the body was located.
Listen, I'm not an idiot and I know how to, I'm not going to say I know how the law works, but for them to try to say that at this point they don't know if it's suspicious is insane.
On the floor in the hallway.
Insane. I just had to say that.
Things that I couldn't explain. broken chain, the front door, and no one answered me how that happened.
When we went back and spoke to the landlord, he swears that he turned the key to the lock and the door opened because of that. But when we looked in the apartment later, we found that the sliding latch lock was actually disengaged from the door, had been completely shattered, and was on the floor.
Now we're looking at the landlord. How are you making that mistake to the police saying, oh, I turned the lock? He lied. We're looking into the landlord.
And the bodily fluids that were on the ground.
We got him.
So someone had forced their way in.
Yes.
They'd also noticed a pillow on the couch, and the chair beside had someone else's belongings on it.
Of course.
We thought that there may have been another person living with Teresa. Family advised us that there was a young man who had been friends with Teresa and had started showing up at family gatherings. He was also Portuguese, and they had met him a couple of times, but weren't really sure about his intentions with Teresa.
A young man that they called a helper to Teresa. It was someone that she had met at one of the community centers, and he was significantly younger.
I believe he was in his...
Here's my guess. It's a young boy. He had nowhere to live. He finessed an old lady, and he wasn't mentally stable, bro. And one day he just snapped on her and just murked her. And I think it might have been the landlord, too. It's between that and the landlord.
His 20s or 30s, and Teresa was a retired woman. So the relationship was something we were interested in. We were also interested in why he wasn't around when he had been around so regularly before now.
I pointed to my team to start looking at video at 24 Shaw and seeing if we could determine when we last saw Teresa, as well as who she may have interacted with, and in particular looking to see if we could find this young man coming and going from the building.
And then we get to the pillow.
The pillow that had been covering Teresa's face when first responders found her.
What's it look like?
Not knowing her condition, they had flung it aside in hopes of helping her.
The bloody pillow that was found on the floor.
That is disgusting.
That to me was the most important piece of evidence. You look at it, it's just a bloody pillow. But it's not until you turn it around and you see a bloody footwear impression right in the middle of that pillow.
Don't tell me he stepped on it and choked her out.
Did I step on it? Did my partner or maybe first responders stepped on it by accident?
This cop's an idiot, bro.
But it wasn't until I looked at it closely and I noticed the word Puma inverted in the middle of the impression.
How are you gonna accidentally step on a pillow in a crime scene? What is he talking about? These guys are just gassing it up to try to build suspense, man. What do you mean, oh, did I step on it?
We don't wear Puma footwear.
The footprint on the back of the pillow, the bloody footprints within the scene. Likely there was a person living with Teresa that was unaccounted for. And we know that Teresa has a knife in her mouth. There really was no other explanation for her death than murder.
Thank you.
Residents of the Terabella learn that 75-year-old Teresa Santos was murdered. Grief turns to fear. The door was deadlocked from the inside, raising a chilling question. Did a stranger gain access to the building, or is the killer someone who lives among them?
It's the landlord, bro. But the young guy's
Teresa's
suspicious,
death shook everyone who knew
Very
her.
suspicious.
I love her job. I love it. I love her calling me and say, oh, Cindy, you know what? Don't go now water the garden because I already did when it was raining.
That's so
I said,
sad.
okay, thank you, Teresa, for letting me know. Yeah, she called me for that kind of stuff. There was no day that we don't have something to say.
How long would you talk on the phone every day?
Oh, when she started talking, we can have an hour or more in the papa. Sometimes things that pass, from the past, from when we were kids.
One of 12 children, Teresa was born in Portugal in 1944, just months before the end of World War II.
She was a janitor, that was her job. Till she fell down, she hurt herself when she was around 60 years old.
She couldn't walk. She needed a cane, she needed a walker. It never stopped her from getting around. Never stopped her from going to Christopher House, which is like a 30-minute bus ride or a walk from her apartment.
She did a lot for the community center.
Oh, this is Little Portugal.
She would help Like if you don't know how to do crochet or knitting or whatever, she will help you to learn to do. And she did a lot of stuff for the center itself to help out with the community.
Teresa was also a wife and mother. The rest of the family didn't like it in Canada. Over time, her daughters and husband all returned to Portugal.
She stays behind by herself. So she was alone, so I decided her to be in an apartment building would be safer for her than live in the house by herself. And I did a mistake. The last time I spoke to her, it wasn't
Nah, don't say that's a mistake, bro. That's not your fault, man. There's no way you could have predicted this. It's not like it was an accidental death. But it's kind of sad that all of her kids went back home and left her. At the same time, I don't blame them, man. Toronto's
August the 8th
right now.
Was a Saturday. And I was supposed to go to church. And she called me, and I see that she calling me. So I call her back. I said, Teresa, how you doing? So I'm fine, thank you. And we were shut for a bed, and good night. No, I did call her the next day. She didn't answer the phone. And I called her again, she didn't answer the phone. So I said, maybe she went to a friend's house, or because sometimes she's going to a friend for a weekend. She's supposed to be home was a Monday. I call again, no answer. So I said, maybe she's met with me for a reason that I don't know. I thought to myself, not that we hadn't discussed or been met with each other or anything, but I called two friends of mine. I said, would you please call her for me and see if she answers you? No, Teresa doesn't answer the phone. I said, so I'm kind of worried.
You gotta
and
go
I
check
thought,
up
well,
on
if she
her.
doesn't answer the phone, then tomorrow I have the superintendent come open the door and find
Good
out
job.
what's going on.
Thank you. That's what I was waiting
But before it comes, so somebody knocked my door at 1 in the morning.
Who was that?
She was gonna go check up on him, and the police came and
Police
knocked on her
officer.
door. No, the same day she was gonna go check. That's so sad, bro.
He comes in to to the living room, telling me that I'm gonna bring you news about Teresa, and so we find her dead on her apartment. And I kinda didn't know what to say, so I started to panic, crying. Why my sister? Why is this? Why? What happened? What happened to my sister? We don't know yet, but we find her dead in the floor.
At that point, everybody in the family was just under the impression that it was a natural cause. It was.
Of course, that's what you're gonna
just
think.
Fell or
I would have
hurt
thought that
herself,
too. I
and
would have never thought someone
That's
came
how she passed away.
and shoved a knife
A few
in her,
days
bro.
later,
To an
thoughts
old lady.
turned to Teresa's young companion.
The first thing come to my mind was him. But then my sister had told me 2 weeks prior to that he had gone to Madeira.
We looked into airline bookings and were of the belief that Jose had left the country. We weren't sure when he had last seen Teresa or when he was coming back at that point. And we had not been able to get in contact with him at all, despite having phone numbers and emails for him.
So they begin combing through video.
We have our team of officers are just sitting down, picking a camera and watching time frames, looking for Teresa and then looking for the young man that was her helper, as well as being live to anything that seems strange. Also, we wanted to start interviewing people from that apartment building because you never know who has some small piece of information that is so incredibly helpful. Teresa was last seen around 5 o'clock
Look at her.
on the 8th. We have
Look at the. Come on, man.
her going down a nail
How you gonna beat this girl up and stab her? Like, look at her, man.
elevator to the lobby
Come on, bro.
of
She
the
can
building.
barely walk.
And she goes and
I
gets
can't
some mail.
believe this.
And then she returns at approximately 5:15 back up to the 8th floor.
When Teresa leaves the elevator, the last time that we see her, less than a minute later, the elevator opens and no one gets on. The only way for an elevator door to open on the 8th floor is that somebody engaged the button. That means that somebody was outside of there, pushed the button to get on, at a very close proximity in time to when Teresa was entering her apartment.
So either somebody would have seen what happened, heard what happened, or that was the person that did it. That's basically it.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. Because we knew that there was these footprints, there was a lot of blood in the crime scene, we spoke with our FIS officers and asked if they could look for physical evidence outside the apartment, so in that hallway.
And one of the things we wanted to establish was, do those bloody footprints from inside of the apartment travel outside of the apartment? We want to know where the offender went after he committed the murder.
On the 8th floor, as soon as you open the elevators, it's all tiles leading up to the deceased apartment. The rest of the hallway is all carpeted. So I decided we're going to use a chemical known as blue star luminol, which reacts to the hemoglobin of the blood. So there's blood that's invisible. Once you spray it with blue star luminol, it will react. It will give you like a bluish.
Blue star luminol. Never heard of that. This is interesting.
The fluorescent bluish in color for a few seconds before it goes away.
That's how you find blood. Wow,
So
you learn something new every day.
Important to note that I'm looking at it with regular lighting. I don't see anything. It's just a regular carpet. And you're talking about, this is maybe several days, maybe a week after she had died. And people living on the floor, children, families, they're walking in and out, and you don't see anything. But for blue star luminol to work, it's got to be complete darkness. And unfortunately, there was no one switch to turn off the lights on the 8th floor.
They spent hours unscrewing every bulb and blacking out every window. They followed the prints down the hallway and around 2 corners.
It was clear footwear impressions, consistent with someone walking, alternating between left and right. And all of a sudden, those impressions, they turned into bare feet. And you could see the toes. But it stopped right in front of apartment 809. But I continued. I didn't stop there. I continued all the way to the end of the hallway where they have an exit to a stairwell. But there's no reaction whatsoever.
No way the guy's
last
living right down the street, right down the hallway.
In front of 809.
I was excited because this unit had come to my attention because the Detective Constable Gillian had been reviewing video all day, and a man kept showing up. His behavior was off, his mannerisms, they were just strange, and they drew his attention frequently. So Detective Constable Gillian took it upon himself to try to figure out who this man was, and it was at that point that we determined that he resided at Unit 809 in the building. He didn't understand what significance, if any, that person had, but he'd shown up on video significantly. I said, that's great, keep an eye, but at this point, we had a different direction of person of interest because we had this young man that was a helper to Teresa that we were still trying to determine what his role was.
Suddenly the door opens to apartment 809.
No way.
And illuminated in the bright sunlight background is a dark silhouette.
This man.
Look at this
steps
guy.
up.
Broski, I stereotype. He did it. This guy did it. Look at him. He's barefoot in the lobby, no shirt?
Topless, full of tattoos. His hair is just wild.
He did it.
Took me by surprise, I'll be honest with you. I was not expecting that door to open.
That person inside the door was Damien Allred. He was like, "What are you doing here?"
Holy smokes, he
We
did
introduced
it.
ourselves and said, "We're the police, we're just investigating the murder."
I asked him if he had seen anything, and he had not. Didn't have much to offer as far as an answer, and that was it. It was a brief encounter.
Jason and I had already identified Damien Allred in a video. Peter Gendy had now identified Damien Allred due to the proximity of the bloody footprints. In our heads, it was all coming together at the same time. Damien was known to be a more aggressive individual within the building. He had accosted a number of people on elevators. He had asked some of them to pray with him, made some comments about voodoo and witchcraft going on within the building.
We had a couple of ladies in the building who had had really negative
Look at him,
experiences.
man. Just making everybody uncomfortable. It's probably stinking. Barefoot. Just making all the ladies uncomfortable, bro. You see how he's leaning over to press this button here? They're probably like, back up, bro.
Really negative experiences. One of the ladies had been accosted in the elevator, and he had yelled after her as she had walked down the hallway, and it had scared her quite a bit. Not being a nice person doesn't make you a murderer, but when that door opened, it opened to another suspect, and we had to figure out what we were going to do.
As police took a closer look at Damien Allred's possible involvement in Teresa Santos's death, they were still trying to find her young companion, Jose.
Who cares
I
about
last had him on
Jose?
video, I
It was
believe
this
about
guy,
2
man.
weeks prior, coming
Don't
and
care
going
about
with,
Jose.
with shopping bags and really fulfilling that helper role that he had been described as providing. With the assistance of our border agencies, we determined that it had been the 2 weeks before that he had left and had arrived back home in Portugal. So he was not in the country at the time that Teresa had passed.
Yeah, of course. Like,
That left Damien.
look at this guy's
who
walking
was
around
seen on
barefoot, and
camera.
they're talking about Jose. This guy's walking around barefoot in a public lobby downtown or in the West End, and we're talking about Jose. Bun Jose,
numerous
man.
times around the Terabella the day Teresa died.
He was going up and down from the 8th floor, starting at about 8 o'clock in the morning, carrying garbage bags. And he was walking to and from the garbage bin. When he went up in the elevator closer to 4 o'clock, his hair was tied up in a ponytail.
This guy murked
he was
the old
wearing
lady
a
and
t-shirt,
tried to clean
he was
up
wearing
after.
shorts, he was wearing slides, and he just appeared to be going about his daily activity.
His footwear stood out. Forensic officers had determined the puma prints at the crime scene were made by a pair of slides.
The guy
The
did it in
RCMP has a data-
slides, and he's still walking around in the slides.
Of footwear impressions
This
that they keep.
guy, bro.
So one of the detectives over at Forensics was able to narrow down some models for us.
He's
One of
sick
those
in his
models was
head.
what looked to be what he was wearing in the video. Those Puma slides become significant because after we last see Teresa, we never again see him in those shoes.
Teresa had gotten off the elevator at 5:15. Then the other elevator door opened and no one got on. At 5:33, just 18 minutes later, Damien gets on looking markedly different
Look
than
at
he
this
had
guy,
all day.
bro.
He was disheveled. His hair was no longer tied back. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and he is no longer wearing shoes. He was sweating, and he was sort of pacing.
How the
within
hell you know
elevator.
he's sweating
And
off
that
that?
really caught our
How
attention.
you know he's sweating off that grainy ass camera footage?
He was sweating, and he was sort of pacing within the elevator. And that really caught our attention.
And that became the building blocks of our case. But there still wasn't those pieces of evidence to move us towards laying a charge.
Until an interview with another resident provided an opportunity.
He told me a story about how Damien had held him within the elevator, had threatened him, and was forcing him to pray with him before he was allowed to leave. This
Holy
made the male very scared.
This guy's a
and
menace.
he wanted Damien charged.
On August 16th,
Wow.
they arrested Damien on the charge of threatening and at the same time executed a search warrant at his apartment.
Wow.
We
For that,
presented Damien's wife with the search warrant for the apartment. She knew Teresa had died, but she was very adamant that her husband had not been involved in that death, that he was a gentle and kind.
Wait, he helped the person in the elevator. This is after the murder? I don't want to go too far back. This is after the murder?
On August 16th, they arrested Damien on the charge of threatening and at the same time executed a search warrant at his apartment.
We presented Damien's wife with the search warrant for the apartment. She knew Teresa had died,
So this is
but she was
after.
very
So-
adamant that
He got pressed to pray. I wonder if that's before or after. I
her
don't think they said.
husband had not been involved in that death, that he was a gentle and kind man. We weren't sure what we were going to find inside there. We were wondering if Damien had tracked blood into the apartment, if the clothes that he had used during the murder were inside the apartment. But when we walked in, we were quite surprised to find the apartment barely had anything in it. It was during COVID, so there was heightened concern for germs from everywhere, not just within this case.
He wasn't living right,
it
bro.
appeared that Damien had been using that to rid his apartment of everything. And there was a lot of Damien's clothes, but not clothes for many of the other people. We found clothing that could have been the same clothing that Damien wore, but we did not find the Puma slides at all.
That day I was back and forth.
The next day, Detective Hillier interviewed him with regards to Teresa's murder.
I learned that he'd been living in the building for, I believe he said, 3 years with his wife. He had 2 stepchildren and he had a young baby, I would say. He had come from Antigua, where he had lived for some time. He didn't know Teresa except to see her, didn't know her by name. And that he often would call the front desk concerned about her welfare because of some of the smells coming from the unit.
Wow.
He had some derogatory names to call her, which I'd prefer not to speak about, but it was clear that Damien was annoyed by Teresa.
During the interview, Detective Hillier asked about the slides.
In the lead up to that, he had expressed only having a couple of pairs of shoes. I was able to produce some still images we had from the video showing him in a pair of flip-flops. And what did he say? They're in a bucket. They have a bucket of shoes that the family has. They might be his wife's. But then when I said, could these be your wife's shoes? Could those be your wife's footprints? He was quick to say no. And he had to tell me that I would find those shoes at his apartment.
He's cooked.
I explained to him that we had conducted a search warrant at his apartment, and that shocked him. He continued to say that these sandals would be there, and we went back and forth quite a bit because I said, are they hidden there? We've searched your apartment, they're not there. And ultimately, he admitted to throwing them out. One of the craziest parts of the interview,
Cat died, cat scratched.
he suddenly leans forward and shows me injuries.
What an idiot. Yeah, he's not good in his head, bro.
I still remember it's on his left arm, on the back of his left arm, he had these scratch marks. And he said that it was his cat. And he explained to me that his cat had been sick and that he had ended up drowning his cat.
What?
In an effort to put it out of its misery because he couldn't afford
Get him
to
out of
euthanize
here.
it properly. And then showed me these injuries. The injuries on the back of his arm, there was these 3 scratch marks.
Like,
that,
honestly,
again,
bro, like, he's sick. He deserved to be in a mental hospital, but now I think personally it's too late, bro.
And he characterized his
You gotta get rid of
cat.
this guy, bro.
And you can see it's a cat.
If he did it.
It's a cat claws.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can relax because it's starting to open up a little bit so it doesn't bleed on you.
Right. So
As he, showed them to me and
Looked
moved
like
his
he's
arm,
on meth,
they
too.
began to weep, clearly showing that they were fresh. And I knew those were not from a cat.
During the interview, I took it upon myself to phone Damien's wife and ask about the family cat. And Damien's wife advised me that the family cat had run away weeks prior and they hadn't seen it since.
A 40-year-old man is facing second-degree murder charges in connection with the death of a 75-year-old woman in Toronto.
Damien Allred was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. People who live here are shocked.
That's good news. Are you serious?
They've just charged someone by this name with second-degree murder.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Man, you know how scared you must be if... Wow, I never even thought from that perspective. Imagine how scary you are and you're a different older man in the building and the guy's just walking around and you don't know who did it. That is scary too.
It wasn't enough.
Oh my gosh.
Because we had to place him in the apartment. We had to link him concretely to that crime scene. And at this stage, it just wasn't there.
Police had a trail of bloody footprints leading from Teresa's apartment to Damien's door, but no shoes to help prove he had made them.
So the next thing we did was what we call a foot impression warrant. We took impressions of Mr. Allred's feet, and then we had to seek out an expert, and that was Detective Harris from the Peel Regional Police.
The ridges, this is the friction ridge, is like what you have in your hand. We don't keep databases like they do with fingerprints. So if we have friction ridges on a foot, there's no database we can put it into, and then it will give us some people's names that we can compare it to. It doesn't work like that. But if I had
to the foot right
then
now,
I would be able to say that this did come from the same source. Without that, we're looking at the quality of the foot impression. Can I see all 5 toes? Can I see the ball of the foot. The top end of it, there's what's called the metatarsal ridge. The impression will leave like a line. It's where the ball of the foot is. And the shape of that is something that we compare. And then the heel.
Wow.
And then how much of the arch can we see?
Toronto.
I don't know how you can commit crimes 2025, 2026. These guys are looking at the ridge of his foot, the indents, the size, the finger, I mean the toes.
Police sent Detective Harris Damien's prints and 2 images from the crime scene.
You outline everything that you see, and then you end up with this tracing. And once that is done, and you've documented everything that you can see, you do the same thing with your known impression. Once you have that, then you overlay both your known and your unknown, and you can start to see if there are any similarities between the two. And my conclusion was there was a level of support that impression came from a suspect that was provided by Toronto Police.
More
That's
good
some
news.
Damien
more than that.
Allred's skin is found underneath
Thank you.
Teresa's fingernails.
That's all we needed to
I
hear.
call that-
Why even show us the other nonsense? That's all we needed
At
to
the
hear.
nail in the coffin
What the
evidence. There is no way that Damien could explain Teresa having his DNA under her fingernails.
On November 7th, 2022, the trial began. In the Crown's opening address, the jury was
How
told
much you wanna bet he went to the hospital and not the jail?
that Santos had broken ribs, a fractured spine, a dislocated jaw, and injuries to her face. Damien Allred, who is now 42 years old, has pleaded not guilty. 3 weeks later, on November 25th, a jury convicted him of second-degree murder.
Oh yeah, he's cooked.
A man who brutally beat his elderly neighbor to death in 2020 has been sentenced to life in prison
They
with
gave
no
him
chance
life.
of parole for
Oh
17 years.
yes, sir.
What would you say to Damien?
They got him. Honestly, that's like one of the worst crimes I've seen, bro. Like, yeah, that he deserved it.
And all read about what he did to your sister.
I would say to him that he was a monster, and I will ask him, why did you do it? She couldn't defend herself.
Look at that old lady.
She was
did that too.
a poor, handicapped lady which has no defense. And why did he attack her and kill her?
When I saw a picture of this man, I'm like, he was a building compared to her.
I would have went nuts.
It was a tower over her. Like there was nothing she could have done. And the brutality of it, like it was horrible to read. I sit sometimes and I wonder, like I can only imagine how much she suffered. The detective told me that it lasted 15 minutes and she believes even less. And sometimes I think a minute is a long time. So that must have been an eternity for my aunt.
Part of what haunts the family is that in 2020, Teresa was contemplating leaving Canada.
That year, my cousin was here. So my aunt's daughters, Teresa's daughters from Portugal, they came to visit. And they were asking her to move back to Portugal to come live there. And my aunt told everybody that she wanted one more year and she would have packed up and gone home. So the following year, she would have been at home with her family and her grandkids.
Frank even went to her gravesite in Portugal, where she was buried.
It was comforting to see where she was resting. I never got to say goodbye to her. I'm not sure if it was a goodbye, but it was a visit.
The original
Look at
charge
this guy,
against
bro.
Damien Allred for threatening another Terabella resident was stayed in light of his murder conviction.
Oh, man, we never got to figure out the motive, bro. I really want to know, like, what caused this guy to go do that to that poor old lady, man? Like, he's just sick in his head. He has a wife, he has kids, like, what caused
In
this?
September 2025, he filed an appeal seeking a new trial or a reduction of his parole ineligibility. As of this airing, no decision had been reached.
Yeah, get out of here, bro. What he should have got was, if I was the prime minister, his sentence would be for everyone in the community, everyone that lives in the building, to pick up the largest rock they can find and throw it as hard as they can and try to bust his head, bro. But that's just me, man. That was the reaction. It's MellowBanks. I'm out. Check the next video.